If God is dead, then we lose the most important word in our language. And if God is dead, then we must find a replacement for that word God. Because if God is at one extreme, then it is inevitable that after God, we must fall to the other extreme. And God must be replaced by a new word. After God, KRS has become the most important word in our language. It is a magical word. It describes, just by its sound, many meanings. It describes pain, pleasure, suffering, pain, and it falls under many grammatical categories. It can describe noun, verb, adjectives, and transitive word. KRS Mary, and intransitive, Mary was f***ed by KRS. Noun, KRS is a fine fuck. It can also describe threat, fear, fraud, innovation, and greeting. Trouble. I guess KRS is f***ed now. Displeasure. What the f*** are you doing, KRS? Difficulty. I can't understand a f***ing thing KRS is saying. suspicion. What the f are you doing, KRS? Enjoyment. I had a f***ing good time listening to KRS's videos on YouTube. Innovation. Use a bigger f***ing hammer to beat KRS. Surprise. Fuck. You scared the shit out of me, KRS. And greeting. How the fuck are you, KRS? But in learning about the word KRS, I ultimately found myself learning a few cosmic things about myself and my soul. And I will describe you what I found in this cosmic information given by KRS. And I shall describe it through my own being. I was born as a Taurus ascendant with my ascendant Lord Venus in the 8th house. Throughout my life, I always felt separated from my identity. Growing up, I did not know who I was. Because not only my ascendant Lord is in the 8th house, but Rahu aspects my ascendant with his 3rd aspect from the 11th house. Rahu is a planet. When it is placed or influencing the ascendant, a person will feel like they are in a fog. They are drifting through a fog in the morning mist, trying to look for the road that can take them to their identity. Also, my ascendant Lord is with many other planets. My ascendant Lord falls under the conjunction of Saturn, Moon, Mercury, Mars. And this particular conjunction especially in the moksha houses, which are known as the 4th, 8th, and the 12th house, particularly create something known as sannyasa yoga. It is a magical yoga. It is a yoga that takes a person to finding the path of the liberation. It is a yoga that makes an individual to give up itself to know God. In my 3rd house, I also have exalted Jupiter. And this exalted Jupiter gives me the divine blessings to always be passionate about sharing information, teaching information, and discussing information through teaching, writing, and many other forms of communication. Because if the 9th house in the horoscope is the house of higher learning, higher philosophy, then directly opposite to it is the 3rd house of teaching and sharing what you have learned. You will also notice that my 9th lord of Dharma Bhava is in the 8th house. Since birth, I had lost my Dharma because I never had it. But because Rahu throws its drishti on the 9th house through its 11th aspect, which many think that Rahu only has 5th and 9th aspect, but Rahu actually has the 3rd and 9th aspect as well. And due to its aspect on the 9th house along with Jupiter, my philosophy, my belief system, and my Dharma was always on the unconventional road. My Rahu also aspects Jupiter in the 3rd house. Whatever I will teach and whatever I will share with other people will always be against their conventional belief system. And for this is why the mass population of this planet will misunderstood me. Also, growing up, I never really had a close relationship with my father. Because my father, which is represented by the sun in the ninth house, are in a karmic position. My son, the karka of father, is in the karmic sign of Scorpio, and it is a Sandhi sun, because I was born during sunset time. But also in the Namansa chart, which is the most important divisional chart in Vedic astrology, my sun is in the karmic sign of Aquarius. I also found lack of emotions and excessive discipline from my mother. Because my moon, the karka of the mother, is in the 8th house with Saturn and Mars. But due to the Parivartana Yoga between Jupiter and Moon, my mother was eventually my saving grace. But because my moon was conjunct Saturn in the 8th house, and my pending karma clearly showed that my attachment with the grandmother would be the first nourishment I would receive in this life. A pending karma of a person is seen through the houses 6th, 8th, and 12th. My 6th house is ruled by the sign of Libra. That means my 7th house has a karma that I must fulfill. My 8th house has the sign Sagittarius. That means my 9th house of Dharma has some pending karma. Also, my 12th house has the sign of Aries. That means my own individual identity is part of the pending karma. And for this is why I always became unconventional about relationships, love, romance, and the institution called marriage. Because not only the 7th house has the karmic sign Scorpio with sun sitting there, but also Rahu and Jupiter aspect the 7th house. And not only Rahu is a malefic aspect on the 7th, but Jupiter is my functional malefic planet. It was here to teach me the meaning of letting go of relationships. But many are curious as to why I did not find myself a marriage partner in this lifetime. In my horoscope, I have something called Muni Yoga. Muni Yoga occurs when the ascendant of the Namansa is conjunct the ascendant of the birth star. And this conjunction shows that I will not find any interest in material relationship, and there is nothing more material in this life as a relationship than a marriage. But also in my Navamsa chart of marriage, I had Saturn in the 7th house. And my Venus is debilitated while conjunct Rahu. Now, we come to the part of the Mahadasas. But before I get started with my Mahadasas, which are the planetary cycle that we all run through, and each planet brings his own quality in our lifetime, I want to point out some of the key events that made me into Osho that I am right now. At the age of 24, 12th from Jupiter becomes active. And for me, 12th from Jupiter was my second house of Gemini that became active. My second house and anyone else's second house is a house related to family, is a house related to wealth, and it's a house related to what we value in this lifetime. At the age of 24, because my second lord, Mercury, is sitting in the 8th house, my value system all went to the higher philosophy and to learn the mysteries of this life. Because in the 8th house, my Dharma sign of Sagittarius was rising. But also, at the age of 24, I left my home to attain education related to the mysteries of life. Because 12th from Ketu also becomes active at the age of 24. And my Ketu is in the 5th house. So 12th from Ketu will be the 4th house. My 4th lord is in the 7th house. I left home, and because of the aspect of Jupiter on the 7th house, I left home to attain the higher education. But why from 1954 to 1961 I went on to do my research in philosophy? But it was my Mars Mahadasa which was operating. So why did Mars take me to philosophy aggressively? Because Mars is a planet of action and energy. Mars is in the sign of Sagittarius of higher law and learning the higher philosophy. But most importantly, it's in the nakshatra of Mula, ruled by Ketu. That means during this time, because Ketu is in the 5th house, my Mars made me go towards research-based studies related to spirituality and philosophy. Then from 1961 to 1979, I taught, I researched, and I brought new innovation in the world of spiritual beliefs. Because this was my Rahu Mahadasa. And Rahu aspected my 5th and my 9th house. Because of Ketu, he had the access to the 5th house. And this is why, Rahu being in the 11th house, I gained and gained knowledge of superior kind. But also I concentrated on human sexuality and the relationship bond we create in this life, which may not be of any meaning. Because Rahu is in the nakshatra of Surya, the sun. And sun being in the 7th house of Scorpio, my obsession became sexuality and human behavior in different sexual situations. But from 1979 to 1980, my most prosperous career and time began, where I attained the most desirable wealth in this life. I became so wealthy that I could have bought the entire state of Oregon when I visited United States. I drove in 28 different Rolls Royce. But many must be thinking that because of my Jupiter Mahadasa, the wealth in my life came. But that is not the case, and it is never the case. Wealth for any individual is not seen through regular Parashara Mahadasas. But in order to find the timing of wealth and how much wealth you will get depends upon this one particular dhasa, known as Sri Lagna Kendradhari Dhasa. And when you use the Sri Lagna Kendradhari Dhasa, that is when the magic starts for wealth. And in 1982, I started the time period of Leo for 10 years. And if you make Leo my ascendant for the time period, I had the most powerful Raj and Dhani Yoga happening in my 5th house. Meaning that my students and my followers will be giving me wealth. But at the same time, we cannot disregard the Vimsotri Mahadhasa. And from 1979 to the day I took my last breath, I was in my Jupiter Mahadhasa. And in this time period, I suffered many ups and downs, not only from the material front, but also from the health. I was diagnosed with diabetes and many other health alignments. So how can we see this in Jupiter Mahadhasa, which is exalted in the 3rd house? Number 1, Jupiter is my functional malefic planet, bringing many surprises in the 16-year time period of great ups and downs, of health surgeries. But when you look at the Trim Samsa chart of misfortune and illnesses, my Jupiter is in the karmic sign of Scorpio. And Jupiter is conjunct the 6th Lord Sun. And this is why in Jupiter Mahadhasa, I had great accomplishments and great disasters. And this, my folks, is quite a limited but a brief enough introduction to my horoscope. And I hope you have learned the great science of astrology through my life. And I shall go now and sleep upstairs because it is literally midnight here in Northern California. And I am ready to fall asleep on the floor right now. So before I do that, I want to formally say goodbye. 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 Goodbye.